subconscious mind is memories, three-dimensional pictures and images of life that you create in the mind. Meaning that when you look out at a person, which I was making clear the other day, people do not realize that you've never really seen anybody. What do I mean by this? You've never really seen me. What you've done is taken a picture of me when you, by way of light, it came in through the iris, past the retina, to the octave nerve, and then certain nerve impulses to the brain that stimulated memory centers for color, shape, form, and they're like a laser light produced a three-dimensional image of me or a holographic picture of me that reflected outwards. You've never really seen me. You've never seen anybody. All you see is pictures of them in the mind. You know how the eyeball works, right? Yeah. So anything that goes into the subconscious mind is stored there. Meditation will not rid you of all the evils that are there. You must learn to use meditation for concentrating so that you can have the power to pull out the subconscious mind to discipline what you want. The same thing if you put your 5 fingers down on a table right now and I said, raise your thumb. Are you doing it?
Yes.
It's relatively simple. Raise your pinky. It's relatively simple. Raise your pointer finger. It's relatively simple. Raise the finger next to it, the middle finger. Now keep your hand flat and raise that last finger. That finger is very difficult to raise because it's not used as much as the other fingers, and therefore the muscles to the tendons are not as stimulated the same way. You follow that?
Yes.
Well, man has learned to move in his pinky, his index pointer finger, but not his ring. He activates his see, hear, taste, smell, and feel senses, but his sense of emotion is like a lion in the jungle running wild, his mind. He can think bad even when he wants to think good. He can flash into negative thoughts while he's trying to concentrate on positive things because he does not develop that pinky. However, if this person was going to set out to be a piano player and they need that pinky, they would sit down and they'd practice and they'd develop that pinky until they can move it the same way they move the thumb and the other fingers. You follow that? Because they need to use it. The mind is the same way. You have to learn to develop, to use the mind to focus concentration with an even flow of positive energy. Otherwise, it will run wild and control you. Things have to be clear. Things have to be not vague. They have to be very clear in your mind. Anything that you want to happen, you must see it clear in your mind and control the wild wanderings of the mind. This is the first steps of meditation. $7.51. 7:51. 7:51. 7:51 and 9. See, the speakers are out. I mentioned it to the brothers who know so they can work on it tomorrow. 7:51 and 9. See, the speakers are out. And 7:30 and 5. I'm doing fine. Thank you, shukran. Food store.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
When you say meditate, drawing a picture, you talking about drawing a picture in your mind like that, like of a dream, man?
No, I don't.
What do you mean?
I'm going to explain it to you in detail so we'll know from henceforward, okay?
No.
You know how a laser beam works?
No, not really.
No, well, I'll explain it. In order to produce a holographic image, a holographic image is a three-dimensional image that truly exists, a three-dimensional picture. We first need what's called a laser light. The laser light is pointed directly at what's called a beam splitter, which will split the beam. The flow of the light goes straight towards the object we're going to focus on, and the other beam that is split shoots off and reflects off a mirror. All right? And then from that mirror is pointed at the same line on the other side of the object it was focused on, and meets it in midair before it hits the film plate it's going to be developed on. Right? And therewith creates a three-dimensional image instead of a one-dimensional flat picture. You see that? When you look at the brain and the way the eye works and the way the senses work, to get a holographic picture of the brain, we have to use impulses from our senses, and they are beamed to the brain, and they begin to merge with our interferent intellect, and they also, like a laser, produces a holographic image. What do I mean? I mean, thoughts are passed through the body like light waves through the nerves, and they are centered towards the brain. They travel through the blood, which has oxygen in it. And inside the brain, there are billions and billions and billions of cavities of thoughts that are waiting to be stimulated. Once this light hits a certain point in the brain, it stimulates memories and brings back thoughts. You follow? So when I say to utilize the mind's eye for concentration, what I mean is anything that you want to come true, anything that you want to manifest positively or negatively, comes from total and complete control of concentration. Here, we'll take two subjects, for example, two types of character, which I affectionately refer to as the underachiever and the higher achiever. And I'm beginning to realize now, becoming a person who's very involved in studying human nature, that the world is made up of underachievers and higher achievers. The underachiever is easily identified because if you ask him to describe something, he does it one-dimensionally. A higher achiever, when asked to describe something, does it in over-exaggerated detail. He doesn't use vague expressions. If you ask him concerning an object, like a clock, he'll say, oh, a clock. Well, there's various different types of clocks. The type of clock I have in my mind is a wall clock. Oh, it's about 12 inches in diameter, which is a cross. And it has numbers that are standard American numbers running from 1 to 12. While facing it, moves towards your right hand, around to your left and up. It has two arms on it. It's about 3 inches thick, has batteries in the back that activate certain wheels that make this, and he will explain it in detail until you can actually feel the clock and see the clock with him. Whereas the underachiever will just say, a clock. What kind of clock? Oh, just a regular clock on the wall. You follow that? The difference is the overachiever has the power to envision in the mind's eye a total three-dimensional image of anything he wants to come true. And here's the gift in that. Electrical impulses or electrical charges, right, send the waves of thought to the brain. Now, you cannot name anything on the planet Earth that is not composed of atoms and molecules or cells and organisms. And both atoms and cells are controlled by electricity and are formed by electricity and energy. You understand? Therefore, if you see anything, any picture of any object, the only thing you have of it in your mind is an electrical impulse image of it that's reflected back on the brain through light. You haven't seen the object. So therefore, anything that you think and put in full dimension is as real as anything that you're looking out at. So if you see success and you can have a vivid, not a vague, but a very vivid, imaginable picture of what it should be like to be peaceful and happy, you see, and concentrate it and see it, hear it, taste it, smell it, and feel it. See the joy in people's eyes and a smile on their face, and a healthy salam and people in prayer. When I would speak to y'all about what I saw years ago as Jami Ansar Allah today, people call it prophecy. It wasn't prophecy. It was the power of the mind's eye, my ability to take my dreams and make them real. Because I sensed it, I smelt it, I felt it. I saw the dome, I saw the crescent, I saw it when it bent and it tilted. I saw the sign fall. I saw the yard open. I saw the gates expand, the blocks change, the people move out. I saw their faces as they moved. I felt the envy they had when we came in. I felt the expansion. I felt everything. I knew at what point people in the mosque would start to fall out because they only served a certain part. I felt the whole thing. I saw Jazir the blades of grass, the trees, the lake. I saw the houses stand there. Therefore, 10 years ago, I was able to say with a laugh, one day we're going to have this. Why? Because I envision it in my eye. And because the Almighty Allah Ta'ala, who is Khaliq, the Creator, resides in my and your bosom, because He said He put Himself into us, then the ability to create is also inside us. The ability to bring from nothing into existence something also resides inside us. So I knew then that anything I thought positive about and put in a three-dimensional image of color to see, hear, taste, smell, and feel will be reflected inside of my higher consciousness, which would be the presence of Allah Ta'ala in my bosom, and that it would come to pass. In other words, I believed in myself. I believed in my dreams. I believed in my people. And I believed in Rabbil Alameen. And when I put all of those senses together, anything I think will come to pass. And if I can get my people to believe in themselves, and to believe in their innovations, and to believe in our success, we will succeed, not the one fold of one man's eye, but the multiple folds of the many eyes that look out at that one man many times. When they look at me and they say, he thought these things, and on thinking them they did become. If we think those things through him, what he makes clear, and we see by his way, by the way that he felt and thought and made, we can feel and think, and we can also make. So if there's one mosque because of one man, there'd be 100 mosques because of 100 men with the same vision. But we have to learn to focus on the mind's eye, concentration. We have to become conscious of the reality of the divinity inside us, and don't devour it, don't defile it. Don't bring it shame, don't dirty it. Be conscious of the present. I don't have any one friend. I have friends, and all humanity is my friend. Anybody with one friend is afraid to face the rest of the world. You understand that?
No.
I have everybody as my friend, and I see success in the man failure. Because in his failure there's success. Because from another man's failings, you learn how not to fail. I don't hold grudges. I don't want to revenge anybody. All I want to do is see the dream of today manifest tomorrow by putting my mind's eye to work. That's what I meant by the mind's eye. You have to have visual impulses that react on the nerve centers, and they stimulate things that become electrical images in the mind that are just as real as everything that's outside the body. So if you believe it, it will come to pass.
I believe it, I think.
And I believe that we're going to make it.
I believe too.
I believe it.
I believe. I believe too. I believe. We believe. It's going to come true.
7:35.
Amen.
Yes.
Can you be quick? Amen.
Yes. You have to talk louder. I don't know. Because I have to have the intercom so people could call in. And if I put the intercom open, I won't know who's calling in. Seven on nine. Seven on nine. 7:17.
Now, Imam, I wanted to know, it was stated that that a woman was able to nurse for 2 years. However, I was told that since Ramadan is coming up, that I would have to stop nursing in order to fast. Is this so, or is it possible that I may fast every other day?
If you read the Ramadan book, which is available, it tells you all of those things. I don't like to be asked things that y'all can read, because it seems like a lazy road. You know what I'm saying? I prefer to read the book. That way you have to read the whole book to find it. Then when sisters ask you, you can say, on page such and such in the Ramadan book, it says so-and-so.
Yeah.
Okay? Because I can't tell you anything other than what's in the book, because I read it.
Yeah. Okay.
Gustav.
Imam, if we knew anything about our past lives, would that, be a pro or con? Would that affect how we progress now? Or is it necessary to know?
Well, listen to it this way as far as that. Right? I live by the past, but for the future. Meaning, I love Ibrahim, but I won't let his mistakes I won't live by the same mistakes he made.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we take from the past of our lives and bring it to the future, then there's no room for change. We cannot be Muslims. Because what we were in the past was definitely not Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
So if I try to bring out of my past and live it with my future, then I'm not a Muslim. I am a person of the past putting on the garb of a Muslim. That's where so many people go wrong. Because they are afraid to start off as a baby and establish a new way of life, and new ethics, and a new way of speech, and new everything. They have to reflect on what they were to impress the brothers. This is what I was in the street. This is what I used to do. This is what I used to live. This is what I used to have. And when they do that, unfortunately, they bring out of the subconscious mind not only the memories and the images and the pictures, but the personalities. And then their aura is engulfed in that negativeness. Now they are a Muslim with a subconscious mind of a Negro. You follow that? And everybody they talk, they spit poison upon them. Every person they talk to about their past and what they were, where they danced, who they danced with, how many parties they went to, what kind of car they had, who they lived in, what school they went to, what university they attended. They're spitting poison on this person. They're like a scorpion. Okay?
Well, no. Actually, what I really meant was, I'm talking about the past lives before we came into this physical life. The past lives like thousands of years back.
Okay, the past lives do not influence this life. The past lives are the vehicles to take you to the next life. Okay?
Begin all acts and thinking by using Al-Kalim the All. Tablet 26, the mind. 19 times 12 equals 228. Lo, O Nuwarpians, I am about to take you on a journey of overstanding. One of the best gifts that has been given to your species is that of the mind. The mind is neither visible nor tangible. It exists not in the physical body, as does the brain, but in the spiritual plane, or what's called the mental plane. Its magnitude cannot be measured, for it carries all feelings, ideas, and impressions from life, as well as the intuitive knowledge of what is to come. It is the mind that must be controlled and corralled in order to achieve that true peace of union. The mind acts justly to its desires, and it does not care about consequence. It thinks of some pleasant-looking or pleasant-tasting food, and then you must have some. When warned of the poisons it contains, the reaction is to disregard the warning, and you find some excuse, and you eat it anyway. However, the self, which is pure consciousness, it is beyond the mind, which is read from the mental, it is the witness of all that is perceived, the plane of truth, and about it, the plane of reality. It neither acts or reacts, for the actions and reactions take place in the mind, which receives its info from the mental reservoir, appearing and arriving as thought waves to the mind. Thought, the most powerful force in the universe, initiates all action in the brain. Activity carried out on Nasut, the physical plane, in which he abode, is only a mirror of the inner workings of the mind. That which is assumed to be the reality, the physical environment in which each person lives, is only a projection of the mind. In truth, when the many mental modifications are resisted, one is no longer affected by the comings and goings of the world, and self shines forth in undisturbed purity. When the thought waves are still, the perceiver rests in his or her own true nature. The state of pure consciousness is achieved when the mind is no longer modified by the activities of thought waves. When the waves of the lake are still, one can see the bottom clearly. Likewise, when the thought waves of the mind subside, one's essential nature becomes evident. With the surrender of the ego, the individual becomes an instrument in the hands of El Elo, the Most High. He or she takes neither credit nor blame for his or her own actions, for El Elo does the action. The devotee thinks of nothing but El Elo, the Most High, and El Elo, the Most High, is his or her constant thought wave, and he feels every mental space. Control of the mind and annihilation of the ego are essential of all spiritual disciplines, including emotional ones. Even on an essentially emotional path, the intellect must not be neglected. If it is disregarded, one can degenerate into fanaticism. If, on the other hand, it is transcended, the devotee experiences the highest state of supreme devotional ecstasy. Your motivation should be the simplest desire, to love, to serve El Elo, the Most High. Only with this attitude will the ego disappear. One cannot attain liberation until all desires, including spiritual desire itself, has been burned. Pure peace is devoid of desire, ignorance and emotions. Pure love is love, united by lust, and it is difficult to develop. Encompassing a pure desire to touch and embrace his or her physical and astral form. This is encountered frequently in the poetry and writings of the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek, the true mystic. If one Enoshite calls another a fool, it is only a verbalization, a vibration in the air, but what a thundering thought waves it creates. One simple unreal word wreaks havoc, throwing the physical and emotional bodies into chaos, destroying all happiness and peace. One is not a fool because he or she is called a fool. If a person were called a donkey, he or she would not grow long ears and a tail. Yet, it is not unusual for people to react in anger to such statements, and in the process, it actually gives validity to them. The mind attributes meaning to words, by which the delicate degree of difference of the words are perceived by any of the senses, or by the mind, giving them a false reality. Such reactions to meaningless vibrations is the cause of countless human troubles. Overreaction to words and jumping to conclusions are weaknesses of the mind. The thought waves must be restrained at all times. One must be particularly wary of praise, for it too is verbal delusion, and the ego is ever ready to pounce on any opportunity to see itself as better or different from others. Not everyone is going to feel the same way as one who bestows a compliment. Inevitably, the pendulum swings in the other direction, and criticism will be heard sooner or later. But true happiness should not rest on praise or abuse, for in all conditions, your true essence is beyond qualities and beyond change. Just as water may become steam or ice, it still remains its underlying essence. The weaker a person is, the less restraints he or she has over verbal essence. Then the mind is not concentrated, and the perceiver identifies with its modification. Then thought waves arise, and there is an immediate tendency to identify with it. The thought wave spawns a host of others. The mind is a slave to its preoccupations, identifying with the same problem wherever it is. Again, the thought waves give rise to countless others, all in search of happiness. But in fact, it is only foolishness, for the very rising of the thoughts themselves destroys the peace that the mind craves. It is said there are 5 types of thought waves, when in actuality there is 7. Some of which are painful, and some of which are not. The 7 kinds of thought waves are right knowledge, erroneous overstanding, verbal delusion, sleep, memory, correct perception and interference. Competent testimony are proofs of correct knowledge. Right knowledge, that is knowledge based on facts, can be proven in 3 ways, but none of the proofs may contradict one another. Examine yourself the next time you are angry or miserable. Reason it out, and note the modification of the mind. Gaining freedom from verbal delusion is essential for strengthening the mind. This is the wisdom. I am a student of a great teacher, alright, Put this in your heart. It is wisdom that I give you. I am the student of a great teacher. I walk with the teacher. I talk with the teacher. I learn from the teacher. And of course, I learn to love the teacher. Eventually, an enemy comes and kills the teacher, correct? And it transforms me from a student to a revengeful man, and I get a new attribute. I want revenge on the man or thing that killed my teacher. I set out on a journey throughout the world, seeking out the man who killed my teacher. I'm motivated by that purpose. I am going to kill the man because they killed my teacher. That's why I'm doing it. I'm not a killer by nature. Why will you kill this man? Because they killed my teacher, and that is my reason. That's my sole reason. So after long hunts and travels and pursuits, I finally corner this man, and I look him straight in the eyes as I take out my sword. The man has terror in his eyes because he knows how close he is to death, and as I raise my sword, I get the satisfaction of being able to end this quest and relieve myself of this anger towards this man who killed my teacher. And that is the reason why I'm going to kill this man. That is the only reason. The man, in fright and terror, hocks and spits in my face. What do I do now? Should I walk away? If so, you say I pursued this man for 30 years and finally I've cornered him. The man who killed my teacher, he cut off my source of divinity or my connection with the divine, and I want to kill him for that purpose only, because he has interfered with my journey. What do I do when he hocks and spits in my face? What do you say? Thank you? Yes, you say thank you. What do you thank him for? Because you have another reason to kill him. If you kill him on behalf of yourself and not your teacher, you will be a killer and not an avenger. That's a thought. You have another reason to kill him. Something made you realize that it's stupid chasing him. To kill him just for spitting in your face. How did he make you realize that it's stupid? What do you do when this man hocks and spit in your face now? You've already got your sword out. You're ready to chop his head off because he killed your teacher and he cut off your source of divinity. Now he has the audacity to spit in your face. Do you kill him? Why would you kill him? Why wouldn't you walk away? I would walk away. Walking away would be right, but you don't know why you are right, and that makes it wrong. You are right. Just say I walk away. I took my sword and I put it away and I turned around and walked away. That's right. But you have to know why you're right, otherwise it's wrong. You don't understand. The reason why it's right is because my reason for pursuing this man all these years is because he killed my teacher, not because he spit in my face. I would have to leave this man and go back to where I started and regroup the reasoning, and now pursue him because he spat in my face. Otherwise, if I kill him, I become a killer for the wrong reasons. Thus, my justifications defeat themselves. The wisdom in all of this is once a holy Enoshite was insulted in front of their disciple by a non-believer who spat in their face several times. Not one muscle twitched, nor did his calm facial expression change, because he did not identify with his physical sheath. His mind was centered in El Elo, the Most High. Can you imagine the strength of that mind? No matter what was done to him, he responded with one thought, that of pure love. A true Elohim will not react in anger, for to them, insult and praise are the same. Restraint of thought waves does not mean suppression. Suppression jams up violent emotions. For various reasons, people abuse, suppressing anger or pain by smiling and carrying a stiff upper lip. The restrained thought waves must be given an outlet. They must be sublimated and channeled into such uplifting activities such as chanting, repetition, exercise, singing and meditation on opposite and positive thoughts. Tablet 27. Exchange anger for love and sorrow for joy. 19 times 2 equals 38. Lo, a change in character occurs only through formation of new habits. Control can be gained by non-attachment or by eliminating emotional reactions to situations and individuals. Non-attachment does not mean that there should not be love or compassion, but rather that emotional thought waves are ignored. The thought waves may arise, but they are observed in a disinterested fashion, then put aside. Non-attachment is a state of mind. It is indifferent of objects of the world. It involves being unaffected by the pulls of likes and dislikes. Whenever the mind acquires a taste for a particular sensation or pleasure, it becomes attached to it. The mind recalls the experience and desires repetition of it. It is this craving that creates pain. Non-attachment does not necessarily mean the cessation of life and society. It involves separating oneself from the binding emotions of that life. Renunciation is a great aid to the attainment of non-attachment. By giving up objects of the senses, the mind is quickly stilled, but it is best to remember that non-attachment is not synonymous with not having. One can own nothing and yet be full of desires. If a person is fond of cherry ice cream, binding their hands and taping his or her mouth will not keep their mind from dwelling on this tree. The basis of non-attachment is the internal realization of the worthlessness of the external world. Objects and desires then automatically fall away, but renunciation does not mean running away from society, duties and responsibilities as is sometimes assumed. It means carrying on with one's duties in a dispassionate and unattached way. The more you want, the less you get. Those that must have, they are never really satisfied. Desire is the lead to suffering. Take less and don't be obligated. Care for your mate not to the point that you are falling in love and hard to live with. Things will happen with or without you, so you don't have to be a part of it all. That does not mean you should not be part of it. It just means you don't necessarily have to be a part. This world is temporary. Don't need it, or you will be bound to it all, and it never really gives. Tablet 28. Power, knowledge and control. 19 times 1 equals 19. Lo. Enoshites, knowledge of something not only gives control over it, but over those who have no knowledge of it. One buys a certain brand of toothpaste in preference to another, out of ignorance. The advertisers know human weakness. They claim that one brand has more sex appeal than another, and they play on the weaknesses of the mind. Everybody manipulates power in this way. Politicians concentrate their energies on outwitting each other and the public. They come up with such slogans as law and order and peace with honor, and they bombard the public with their energy in order to control the mass mind. Some yogis and swamis use such simple, silly tricks and devices, such as using tiger skins to capture one's imagination and hence the mind. If the mind can be tricked, it can be controlled. Laboratory experimentation is in fact scientific meditation. When the scientist discovers what has caused a certain mysterious disease, he or she will then have a basis for a cure. There are principalities in high places trying to discover the secrets of nature in order to manipulate and control nature's energies. Tablet 29. Purification and spiritual practice. 19 times 9 equals 171. Lo, Nuwarpians, I'm about to take you on a journey to learning the importance of purification and spiritual practice. You must always remember that you must always take care of your spirit, and the first step is taking care of your physical body, which houses the spirit. 3 basic steps involved in spiritual practice are severely simple living, self-study, surrender to El Elo, the Most High. Austerity does not mean physical abuse or severe rigors. It refers to strict control for the senses in order to conserve energy for higher pursuits. Austerity in this sense means fasting occasionally, rising earlier instead of sleeping late, and reducing certain physical comforts for the sake of greater control of the mind. What keeps the mind flowing in the desired direction? Surrendering to El Elo, the Most High's will. One also surrenders the fruits of work performed. This is selfless, where one regards oneself as the instrument of El Elo, and it serves humanity with no thought of either credit or blame. El Elo does not work for you, he works with you. Ignorance is the unawareness of reality. You can't really ignore a talking and moving person. It is identification with the temporal world rather than with the imperishable self. Egoism is the I-ness and the minus, which creates the illusion that the physical body is the real you. Likes, dislikes. When a person is swayed by feelings of attraction and aversion, he or she is identifying with the material world, and he is setting himself and herself up for pain of loss and disappointment. Fear of death or clinging to life is binding and stiffening. No one can say when death will come. Fear of death is useless imagination, a waste of energy, and it creates waves of pain, which exist only in the mind. Ignorance is the cause of the above-mentioned afflictions, which follow it, whether they be latent or weak, suppressed or aggravated. The suffering which comes from egoism, attractions, repulsions, and fear of death all stem from ignorance, regardless of the degree in which they manifest. As the root of all other obstacles, ignorance of the true nature of the self is the identification with the body and mind. When ignorance is replaced by enlightenment, all other causes of pain automatically disappears. When in a state of ignorance, if an Enoshite mistakes what is mundane for what is supreme, he or she cannot differentiate between that which will bring him pain to the mind and body and that which will bring him immortality. Egoism is manifest when the individual cannot distinguish themselves from their senses and mind. He or she sees themselves as separate from the rest of the Enoshites, reacting to others with a sense of competition rather than cooperation. Attraction is that which dwells on pleasure. Most think of attraction and pleasure as positive things, but when associated with objects of the material world, they inevitably bring pain. Nothing in the physical world is permanent, hence the constant fear of loss, and the loss itself keeps those seeking pleasure in an unhappy state. This is why the spiritual person learns to cultivate a dislike of worldly pleasures. In the event, he or she is never disappointed or unhappy. The result, ironically, is that by not seeking pleasure, they are always happy. Just as attraction brings pain, so does aversion. The mental attitude of aversion is a negative one, and it often makes a neutral situation appear as if it were one to be avoided. It is not possible to avoid all distasteful circumstances. When there are likes and dislikes, a person cannot be happy. He or she is dwelling on illusory pairs of opposites, rather than learning to be content in all situations and surrendering to El Elo's plan for his or her growth. Fear of death is the continuous desire to live, which is rooted even in the minds of the wise. The fear of death is the fear of the loss of identity, of letting go of the ego. Even when all else is given up, there is still the clinging to life. When these various afflictions are a minor distraction to the aspirant, they can be merged back into their cause by substituting the opposite mental modifications. For example, if egotistical thoughts arise, they can be combated by focusing on the all, and you bring a part of a much greater love. If feelings of attraction or avoidance enter the mind, then contentment or acceptance can be substituted. If the afflictions are overt, and there is a great distraction to the mind, they can be alleviated through regular meditation and prayer. The law of fate states that the very action brings about an equal and opposite reaction. Whatever is done to others will return to the doer, and most people are continuously creating new fatal situations. This is due to ignorance and its accompanying afflictions. Before final emancipation, all debts of fate must be worked out, whether one decides to do so in the present life or in the form of hell or on lower planes, which are referred to as hell. Each must reap what he or she sows. Various life experiences are due to the situations of fate that has earned him or her by his or her thoughts, words and deeds. They have pleasure or pain as their fruit, according to whether there is virtue or vice. Overstanding this, the spiritual person strives to do only agreeable actions and to accept peacefully the ill that comes his or her way, so that his or her seeds of fate are burned and no new ones are sown. Violence to others, whether in thought or word or deed, must be avoided. Non-injury means more than refraining from inflicting physical pain. Mental pain can be far more devastating. When one is established in complete harmlessness, even wild animals will approach in peace. The function of truth is to maintain harmony through trust. It is better to be silent than to tell a truth that will cause pain or that springs from wrong motive. A truthful person has power, for what he or she says comes to pass, and his or her words become law. Cleanliness also extends to the mind. Only when the mind is purified of all things can it be a pure mirror for clear reflections. Laughter comes from stimulation, but a smile comes from inner peacefulness. Satisfied with itself, the mind needs nothing else for its contentment, which grows in proportion to the awareness of the inner self. The mind should not be affected by external objects. They may be possessed, but with detachment. Do not let them possess the mind. Austerity means curtailing the insatiable demands of the senses. Drink water instead of bad drinks. Practice silence instead of talking loud. Control greed. Counteract sleep by getting up early. When the mind learns that its demands for pleasure will not be met through the senses, it stops its useless wandering and turns inward. Control of the senses clears the way for such powers as telepathy and clairvoyance. Study of spiritual works and the holy tablets helps to keep the person on the right path. The book alone, however, can only take one so far, and it can lead to intellectual pride. Surrender to the will of El Elo the Most High is necessary, for ultimately everything depends on His grace. When negative or harmful thoughts disturb the mind, they can be overcome by constant pondering over their opposites. One must be ever alert, always watching the mind. When useless thought waves arise, immediately replace them with positive thoughts, thus creating new mental habits that are conducive to spiritual growth. Negative thoughts and emotions such as violence, whether committed, abetted, or caused through greed, anger, or delusion, and whether present in mild, medium, or great intensity, result in endless pain and ignorance. Thus, there is a necessity for pondering over the opposites. All thoughts, emotions, and actions that are in opposition to righteousness bring about the fate of further pain and ignorance. This is true whether the action is actually carried out, remains in thought form, or is incited in others. Whatever the cause, whatever the degree of involvement, fate is still incurred. This is why it is necessary to substitute positive subliminal thoughts the moment negative ones are caught arising in the mind. One who is firmly rooted in non-violence, this radiates this conviction to others. He or she is so powerful that not even violent thoughts can exist in his or her presence. The more a spiritual person flees from material objects, the more they seem to come to the Enoshai. The purpose of this natural law is twofold. The first is so that he or she may be tested and confirmed in his or her renunciation. The second is so that he or she as a wise person may appropriately dispense the wealth to benefit another. An Enoshai is ever searching for happiness in external objects, but it can only be attained when the mind is satisfied with what has been allotted to it and is no longer looking for the attainment. When the mind is stilled and contented, happiness is automatic. When austerities, self-imposed disciplines are practiced, great will is developed, and the abilities of his or her physical body and senses are extended beyond what is considered normal. Only by surrendering one's will, one's ego, one's life to El Elo is the superconscious state attained. The reality of an object is due to the uniqueness of change. Each object on the material plane can be identified and called a reality because it is made up of its own unique combination of the three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. An object is not dependent on one's mind, for it still exists whether or not it is perceived by that mind. The soul absorbs all of the changes through in which the mind goes because it is the external witness. All true knowledge exists permanently in the self, while the mind is constantly being modified by thought waves. The mind is something that can be observed as an object, and not the source of knowledge, just as Kingu, or called Sheski, and Luna, which you call the moon, is not the source of light, but a reflection of Shemesh, the sun's light. The mind cannot perceive two things at once. Even though thoughts are formed in a split second, still only one thought form exists in the mind at a time, so it is impossible for the mind to perceive itself while it perceives something else. If one mind could perceive another, then there would be cognition, awareness of cognition, as well as confusion of memory.
We're giving one exercise I've been offering, is that just watch your breathing for a moment. It's a very simple exercise, a very simple exercise. You're breathing in, out, happens naturally. Is in fact, you don't even have to decide to do it. It's happening anyway, no? But now to bring your focus into that as you breathe out, have the sense that all things that are in the mind, plus identity, all the thoughts, all the different kind of things, as you breathe out, you're exhaling all the air, the breath, because breath and mind is very linked, you know. You watch and you're going to see. As you breathe out, it's taking everything out. When the air comes back in, it comes back empty. It's not able to bring anything back with it. It comes back in only as air and space. Out, everything that's felt like has been holding on, everything like this, your attention is present, everything out. Yes. This is an exercise, you, after a very, very short time, you see it actually, you're empty anyway. Because you first, you use that guidance, just Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what the thought is saying. You exhale. They say we breathe, the body takes in oxygen, what it breathes out? Carbon dioxide, isn't it? So what you breathe out, you don't need. Breathing out the carbon dioxide mind. In pure air, space, not taking anything but pure air, space. Out, like this. Don't become attached to this practice, just use it. Just watch. And quickly it drops everything. You find that everything is left. What remains? Pay attention. What remains? Any intention, anything still left behind is out on the next train out. That's a simple guidance for anyone can use. If you want to bring attention clean, bring the attention from clutteredness to silence. Out like stale air. Body doesn't need. Being doesn't need. If you want to slow it down just for more enjoyment, you can breathe it through your teeth. When you come to the end, if you want to give more, give another 3 squeeze. Relax, let it clean stuff coming clean here. Okay? It's useful only to drop the association. Then you drop. What's left? What's left that's not the breath? What's left that is clearly not a breath was there also during breath, but was not touched. Now you can see clearly. When this is clearly seen, beyond mood and feeling, it begins to register in your being. So that when mind comes stuff, you see mind, okay, mind come, full party. Ah! It's within the vastness of this. One simple exercise. You can make use of it. Mind is growing all this, because it has been fed. By what is it fed? Just like a fire must go out unless you keep putting more fuel on it. What is feeding the mind? Interest and identity. You believe what it says. It's breathing on that. That's food. So what is feeding even the thought the I thought is direct fuel. The I thought is not the I am. So the one who is present thinking, oh yeah, the mind is troubling me, that's the I thought, that's the I person. Then you see that that itself is a thought. It is, you may call it like it is the magnet thought that attracts other things to it. Then see that as thought also, and see what happens. Then let them go and fight in the bush by themselves. That's not you. Learn to pay attention to that. Otherwise, this one who suffers is going to keep on suffering. You can get a diary for the next however many years you continue that relationship, because the mind, the psychological mind, the Maya mind, is a relationship between who and who. But obviously the sense I am must be there, but the I am itself is in its own hypnotic state by believing it is a person, and the person and its world, they go together. And these things you must see more clearly. But I don't want to give time, or nor you should take time to be kind of figuring out what you know but won't accept. Maybe because you give it to your mind, the mind's going, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. I want rum and raisin. No, I don't want vanilla, I want rum and raisin. You say, okay, you're not accepting that you already know, and you already are. And you're placed out with trying to be. So these things are pointers which they should go directly in directly in. They shouldn't be trying to understand. This knowledge is not coming from outside. It's just been woken up in you, stirred up in you. As soon as grace has touched your life, you begin to wake up to deeper realizations beyond the surface, deeper realizations of your true nature. It's as though like some reflex, something grips onto the sense of the person, like the person is dissolving, and some fear come. Fear that it can take many forms also. A fear that I'm not going to survive, or you're going to disappear. Some people experience like that. Or that the very mind seems to be turned against you and is threatening to destroy your life. How can be? How can be? You are choosing, you have chosen to go more deeply into self-discovery. Self-discovery and God discovery, same thing actually. In the beginning you feel, oh, the ego is in my way, it's stopping me from going deeper and so on. But actually I want to say something might sound very unusual for many of you. It has to happen because still we are identified with a person. And as long as we are still identified with a person, the mind is very much connected together with person. If the person is transcended, this ego mind also collapses, you see. They work together. But you are deeper down than merely the superficial personal identity. So as soon as you begin to discover the deeper truth in you, it's as though the mind is going bananas about it. And why is it doing that? Well, actually, the mind has no power without your cooperation, actually. It's a subtle thing. But what is happening is that what we have developed in the state and the stages of in the realm of personhood, it feels challenged because we have developed and many wrong ideas about life and about yourself. And as you begin to go more deep into your real discovery, it is as though something is rebelling against this change. But it's not something like it is connected with the person also. When I say don't worry about this, let me go back to your letter here. The ego is striking hard to hold me captive. To hold you captive means it's trying hard to keep you in the state of personhood. As long as you are identified personally, his muscles will feel really big to you. But as you begin to recognize that even the person that you have for so long identified to be yourself is only an imagined self, you are slowly discovering that. And that the person itself and the mind, so the person and its problems, are both visible to a deeper consciousness in you. You are already out of the trap. You see? But because we have a relationship through memory and habit with our old identity, you see, whenever we go back into the state of identity, it's like the mind will bite you. But this very same thing, this very same play is going to at some point become actually a help to you. You're going to say, wait a second, the reason why I'm hurting is because I've gone again into the shape of my person. When I'm looking only from the neutral place of the observer, the detached observing, I can see all of this as though they're on a screen. It's as if you go to a movie, you're watching something on the screen, and it doesn't matter if you see a train coming towards you. I remember as a child when I first saw television, and they had a train coming like towards you, and when the train come like this to fill the whole screen, everybody went, whoa, and we forget it's only screen like this. But we grew accustomed to it, that the movies work like that. The train cannot come through the screen at all. You see? So then later after that, you laugh. Similarly, when you can see that when you take the position of the weakness, the neutral and detached weakness, the person, which previously felt so strong and so intimate, become more distant and bearable. You can look at it with detachment and with distance. You must have had some of this experience. And what's happening now, because you have come to a point now to deepen even further, the mind is putting up its strongest. It's the part of the play of what we call Maya. You're coming out of the sleep of personhood. And it's like to wake up, but something is calling you back into the sleep to show you where you're attached, to show you where you had promises and fantasies and projections that are not going to get fulfilled if you continue going like this. But at the same time, as you're discovering your deeper nature, you're feeling fulfilled without things, because you're discovering that your own being is content and complete in itself. It doesn't need objects to make it happy. When we are in the state of personhood, we need so many things to be happy. You need a good relationship, you need to have money, you need to have a car, you need to have a house, you need to have friends who like you, you need to have places to go to. That's the nature of personal identity. But as you are discovering the root, the deeper awareness of yourself, that's not a thing, that's not an object. That you may call the pure subject itself. And something is merging nicely into that unity, you see? And it is as though, it appears as though the mind and the person doesn't want to go there. Then you can see, as you're leaving one realm to go to a deeper or higher realm, you see you have this little tension, this friction is there. But don't worry, you cut the strings to that by remembering, but I'm still here. Look to yourself. Don't look through the senses and the mind and memory, because they will confuse you. Just keep paying attention to that formless awareness in you. And these things, they just vanish. They're like this. No?
Yes, Papa. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
So I know it's the story of the ego, but I would like to expose it. So when I am the awareness and I'm just observing all this heating and the sadness and all of that, the doubt, there comes so much doubt, like the ego, this voice is saying, the self.
Yeah.
You're just empty. So there is, I would like to expose the doubt.
Thank you. But actually remember that the doubts are also, you're aware of them. Even the doubts and the belief, you're aware of them. And the feelings, you're aware. And the memory, everything that is perceivable is arising on the screen of consciousness in this field of awareness. You're seeing everything. You see, you're discovering this more and more. So it's not enough clear yet, but it's getting clearer and clearer. Actually, you are none of these things, absolutely. We are none of these things, actually. But because we seem to have had a long relationship with them and have the sensation, the feeling that you don't know any different or any more. You see? Because you feel in the world of personhood, you learnt about things, about people and places and things and ideas. But when you're discovering yourself is not a thing. It is the place, the root, the source from where all things appear inside you. You say, when I am awareness, but actually you're always awareness. It's just you're not remembering that you are the awareness. You forget somehow. So forgetfulness happens in awareness, and you forget that you are aware of forgetting. It's very subtle. You're maybe going to have to listen to this talk again. Okay? That even the feeling of confusion or, oh, I forget, I'm the awareness, gradually you're going to see that even remembering and forgetting are perceived in awareness. This is a very subtle point, and many people will miss it the first time they hear it, the second time they hear it, third time they hear it, maybe many times they hear it, and they think, no, I just don't get that, that's not for me. But gradually you're going to get it. And as soon as it becomes clear, like in the old days we used to take Polaroid pictures, and when you get them, it just looks like it's just white paper. And slowly, slowly the images come clear until they come to full development. In the same way, as you continue to earnestly follow the pointings, not just up there, but just spend time to listen deeply to what you are hearing. You don't have to listen to many, many, many things unless you have the capacity to take a lot of things in at once. But some people, even if you find one thing that is being said that really resonates with you, you can just put your attention on that only for a while. And it will keep opening and expanding in terms of your awareness will grow like that. You see, this is not university. This is universal, but it's not university. It's not that you have to learn so many things and study so many things. This is my good news for you also. Because it is so, actually, the greater the teacher, the simpler the teaching. You understand what I mean by that? The greater the understanding, the greater the discovering, the simpler the pointing. Why? Because ultimately it's not about words and it's not about teaching. The teachings are only a finger pointing to something which is beyond teaching. It's only to be recognized. And that becomes your experience. So please remember that. It's not that we have to listen so many things to remember. No, not at all. In the beginning, the mind is also telling you, oh, you're never going to get it. It's too much for you. You're not good enough. You didn't come from a spiritual background. It tells a lot of lies. But this is part of your growth. So that you come, every lie, every failure is going to be a teacher for you. And you come to see that actually, I had to go through much of these things, not everything, because many things you have gone through already, you don't know that. Many things throughout the journey of your soul, you have gone through already. Now you have a portion of things you must look at. And if you see them properly, you may not have to go through much more again. This is where I am coming in with you. You see, you have some things that this life has brought you, that you must be aware of them. They're not meant to be on top of your head. The more you don't go up in your head, stay in your heart and watch from the place, know that everything you see, hear, touch, feel, sense, or imagine, they are just illusory. You don't have to hold on to any of this thing. You see? Don't reject them cynically, but don't combine yourself with anything. And you'll see that you'll come to a place of a kind of emptiness inside you. And automatically, you'll begin to recognize you're in the presence of God. You see, you're not going to meet God in a noisy place within yourself. The noisy place is more mind. When we say meet God, I mean like you're becoming singular. You can meet, when I say God, don't think of God as some shape, as some particular entity. Because God is so amazing, it's in everything. Nothing can exist, not one atom can exist without what I call the God supreme awareness self. It's all the same one. We just know and call it different names because we have different temperament, different education, and so on like that. But you're going to go beyond all these things and find this place within you that has no shape. And you see that actually it is not different from what you are. we have been so accustomed to identify with shape, the shape of this body, the shape of your education, the shape of your conditioning or your whatever we are called. But it's okay for a while. We are not all at the same stage. As you mature spiritually, you find that you can bear your own shapelessness. I've said before, when you can bear and be the emptiness, you are free. Always we are holding on to some shape, and every shape is a limitation. But God made all the shape also. At one time, some things were very precious to you as a shape. But as you grew, they became less important. Eventually you can give them away even. Sometimes you spent a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of struggle to get one thing. And after a while, it loses its value for you because it never had value in itself. The value was in your mind. And as you grew and became more mature, you could surrender it, you could give it away. One day you can give the whole world away. And you'll find you are supremely complete. You see, giving it away simply means it's not yours in the first place. But you give up your attachment to things. And don't think you insult God by doing that. In fact, it puts everything in front of you. The mother put all the toys on the floor in front of the child to play. Then one day, once this toy and that toy is crying, I lose this, I want another toy. Then one moment is just one mother only. One day you will not want all these things. They are useful up to a point, but they're only here for you to grow and to realize, you see, all these things exist in you, but they are not you physically only. That is what you're discovering, you see. So what you're going through, regard it as this is God's grace to me. He gives me all these troubles so I can overcome them. I used to say that consciousness creates the sense of a problem in order to have the experience of transcending it. And by transcending something, you go beyond it. It means that it cannot tempt you anymore. It's not in your way. And you don't have to go through everything in the world one by one by one. Find the things that come to you that makes you, that brings you into the state of personhood. These are the things you need to look at, because these are the things that will give you the sense of binding you. You see? Yes. You don't curse anything, don't curse anybody. You see? And you find you're doing very nicely. And I stand with you on that one.
Thank you, Guruji. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you so much.
Love you so much. So good. So wonderful. So wonderful. Thank you, my love, Jacinth.